AQA. It's an essay that's involved in the A2 part of the exam. It's part of the paper 3. And the essay is the one thing that most students hate, but in actual fact, it's quite formulaic in how to achieve success in it. You need 4 paragraphs from across the specification. You need an extra paragraph that takes you beyond the specification in order to reach that upper band on the mark scheme. So what I mean by that is anything from 21 to 25, you need to include beyond the specification. You'll see that the AQA essay titles now all involve the importance of. That is very different from the role of. So if you answer an exam question, the role of water in organisms, then you're really going to limit yourselves to the bottom 2 or 3 bands of the mark scheme, because you're not actually answering the question. It needs to be the importance of, and AQA have gone down this route because the importance of requires skills such as analysis and evaluation, and of course exam boards have moved away from knowledge to analysis and understanding since the invention of Google back in '94. That's changed the structure because of course now we can just Google anything that we want to know. However, the skills that we need to develop from that are analysis and evaluation. So anyway, let's have a little look at this title. It says the ways in which water and the regulation of water content are important to organisms. Right, so first paragraph, what has Ariba, one of my year 13 students, what has she written? I'll just leave you for a moment to read that first paragraph and then we'll look at the structure. Okay, so what's great about this is that she said one way in which water is important to organisms is through the process of condensation reactions. She hasn't just started talking about condensation reactions, because that wouldn't necessarily link to water. You'd be expecting the examiner to do some work and link condensation reactions to water. So she's very blatantly, very obviously said water is related to condensation reactions. Then what she's done is she's gone straight into it. She's talked about all the things that wouldn't happen if we didn't have condensation reactions. And she's summarised it at the end, therefore saying, therefore, without the release of water, there would be no enzymes which are crucial in all processes. For example, the second messenger model wouldn't work, and so the reaction to form glucose from glycogen wouldn't occur, stopping respiration from occurring. The other thing you'll notice about this paragraph, it is loaded with A-level content. A GCSE student could not have written this because it includes information from the A-level course. But it's not just regurgitating information, it's explaining it. So this is a good paragraph. Of course, you wouldn't be able to have an essay about water without mentioning osmosis. It's fairly obvious. I'll give you a moment to read this paragraph and then we'll talk about it in a little bit more detail. Again, in the first sentence, she's been really, really obvious. Another way in which the regulation of water is important to organisms is in osmosis. She's not just gone straight in and talked about osmosis and expected the examiner to make the link. Again, it's A-level content. She's described a little bit about the importance of osmosis, and then around here, which is a little bit more than halfway through the paragraph, she has said, without osmosis, water would not leave the descending limb, and then she's talked about all the things that wouldn't be able to happen, which emphasises the importance of it when it does happen. So the structure of this is good. It's full of A-level content, it's loaded with scientific terminology and vocabulary, and it follows the structure. This is why I'm talking about osmosis, this is what happens, and this is what would happen if we didn't have that water. Here's the third paragraph. Again, I'll give you a moment to read it. Okay, again, she's explicitly linked water in photosynthesis. It's important. She dives straight into A-level content, photolysis. We don't cover photolysis in GCSE. I can tell this is not a lay person, a person from the street. This is somebody who has studied A-level biology. She then loads it with A-level content, A-level terminology. Straight away, in the very top part of this paragraph, she's talking about the importance of, and how she's doing that, she's saying, without it, this wouldn't happen, therefore that wouldn't happen, this wouldn't happen, and that wouldn't happen. So all the way through, she's talking about the importance and not the role. Okay, here she has talked about water is important in gas exchange systems as seen in the fish and the countercurrent multiplier system. She then talks about fish. She then gives another example. The whole paragraph really is about gas exchange surfaces. She then goes into the idea of the water in the end of the tracheoles, which occurs here, and talking about water potential and what would happen if we didn't have it. She talks about what would happen on a cellular level, that water wouldn't move into the cells that surround the end of the tracheole, the lactate would remain and maybe damage the cell. Then she talks about it on an organism level. The organism wouldn't be able to respond, to move to a more favourable environment, wouldn't be able to fly away, and that can threaten the survival of the organism. Remember, you can get into the upper band of the mark scheme, i.e. from 21 to 25, without going beyond the specification. If you want to get into the upper part of that band, i.e. if you're looking for marks 23, 24 or 25, you need to go beyond the specification. And we've seen this example before. This is talking about cystic fibrosis. Cystic fibrosis was part of the old specification, and it was also part of the human biology specification. It's a great example to use. We can use it here when we're talking about the importance of water. Obviously, less water in the mucus means that the mucus remains thick and sticky. You get a biofilm in your lungs, and it also blocks pancreatic duct, meaning you get pancreatitis, and you can't absorb the product of digestion. It can also be used when we're talking about membrane proteins, so the CFTR protein. It can also be used shape when we're talking about proteins, when we're talking about transport. There's a lot of ways that you can anchor this whole cystic fibrosis thing into lots of different essays. So it's one to have under your belt, I'd say. So let's have a little look at what she's written. Again, she links it. The importance of water, cystic fibrosis. It's full of A-level content. She's written the full word and then she's put it in an abbreviated form, which she's then used, which she can then use further on through the paragraph. She's talked about the consequences of not having water in that mucus. And so we very much hit on the importance of. So what she's done 4 paragraphs. The 5th one is from beyond the specification. There is no introduction and there is no conclusion or summary. You don't need that. AQA know you've got about 35 minutes in the exam to write an essay like this. It doesn't have to be super long, but you need to make sure you're covering 4 areas. Otherwise, you are really limiting yourself to the 2nd or 3rd band on the mark scheme. The whole big point is you need to be talking about the importance of and not the role of. I think I've probably told you in one of my other videos that some of my students in the past write fabulous essays on the role of, and they get really disappointed because they still haven't discriminated between the difference of the importance and the role. Make sure you do.